Yes, I'm still here, Hollywood. Coming up on today's episode, she went from daytime drama to one of the biggest primetime franchises in the world, winning over millions of viewers along the way. Audiences know her as a scientist solving crimes in Miami, but her journey in Hollywood has been about much more than the roles she's played. It's a story of resilience, representation, reinvention, and protection of her daughter and herself. This is Still Here Hollywood. I'm Steve Kmetko. Join me with today's guest from CSI Miami and so many soaps, actor Eva LaRue. Eva, thanks for coming in and doing this. We really appreciate it.
I'm so excited to be here.
Let me ask you right off the bat, what first drew you to acting, and how did it all get started? When did you realize it could be a career?
It could be. I started when I was about 6, doing my first commercials. My mom had put me in this little local beauty pageant, and I was first runner-up. And I remember at that very moment being so disappointed with myself. Isn't that crazy? I was 6, and I was like, there's a picture of me standing on the stage with the winner and me next to her, and I have my flowers up over half of my face because I was like, I will not smile. I have not won. So I had that sort of competitive spirit, which has gotten me a long way through this career, as frustrating as it can be because of the rejection factor, in this industry. But I did my first commercials when I was a kid, and then really got into musical theater, and I was a big sing and dance fan, and thought for a while maybe I wanted to be a ballerina. And then I graduated from high school. I didn't end up going to college, which I do regret because it would have given me this lovely little buffer before life hit. But no, it was kind of great that I just jumped right into what I wanted to do and what I loved doing, and got my first kind of break on the new Candid Camera with Dom DeLuise, and then the soap opera Santa Barbara, and then All My Children, which really kicked everything off.
Oh, is that what really made you realize it's taking hold?
Yeah, I think I realized it was taking hold when I just couldn't get enough of it in junior high and high school. Just being on stage, even though I hadn't done really anything other than commercials, I didn't imagine myself doing anything else. And one of my uncles asked me one time, he was like, you have to have a backup plan. This is all fun and games, and you're great on stage, but you have to have a backup plan. And I went home thinking, oh, that's a dumb idea. Why would I have a backup plan? That would mean I'd fall back on the backup plan.
That's what, when you said that, I was watching a documentary about a chorus line, because it just celebrated, 50 years or something. And one of the young women they interviewed said, everybody says you have to have a backup plan. But I'm of this opinion that if you have a backup plan, you're going to fall into it,
Yeah, you're going to fall back on that path.
Right.
I didn't want a net. I was either going to make it or not. But that's also sort of the way I grew up. It was a little bit scrappy, and we were broke, and we were on welfare, and so it wasn't a matter of there wasn't a choice. So I think when you don't have a choice, you don't choose the other choice. You just...
What do you think you would have done had this not come to fruition?
Married well? I don't know.
Always a good solution.
Gone down more of the beauty pageant route and tried to marry. I don't know.
You did some modeling before acting, right?
A little bit, yeah. I was short.
Was that? You don't look short.
Thank you.
What was that transition like? Was there a transition?
No, because I really didn't do a lot of modeling because I was short. So I did, I'm only 5'7", so I did some swimsuit modeling, and I did some catalog modeling, but not a lot. That was never my forte, I don't think.
How have you been able to measure the difference between doing a daily soap opera as opposed to CSI? Is there a big difference?
There's a huge difference in doing daytime soap operas and nighttime TV, because doing a soap opera can be 75 pages a day of dialogue, 75 pages to memorize. And if you have a heavy storyline, that's 4, sometimes 5 days a week. Usually on a soap opera, you're working like 3 days a week on average. But if you have a big storyline, it can be 4 or 5 days a week. And sometimes shooting 3 shows in a day, sometimes 4 if they're trying to bank up shows so that we can go be on Christmas break or, summer break or something like that. So it is mind-numbingly hard to do. Conversely, with a nighttime show, like a procedural, like CSI Miami, we're shooting maybe 9 pages in a day. That's a heavy day. 9 pages, what? We'll never finish it, oh my God. But it's usually like a 7.5, 8-page day. So, although on CSI Miami, we had all of this scientific speak. So it was like trying to learn how to speak a different language sometimes, which I thought was difficult in its own way, but...
Do they have any prompters or
no
cue cards or anything?
No. I've heard that some soaps do. I have never worked on one that did, but no. You're flying, you really are without a rope or a net.
Was it good experience for you?
Oh, yeah. I think starting off in soap operas is the most phenomenal training ground for any actor. And I always say that with the amount of work that we have to do in that short amount of time with no rehearsal, barely any rehearsal time, I would love to see any of the top-notch 1% stars try to pull off the same acting quality with that little rehearsal time and that much material.
Because I think generally speaking, there are some people who look down their nose at...
A lot of people look down their nose. I mean, soap operas have been looked down on for the longest time because they're melodramatic and they're all the and unfortunately they haven't come up to speed with the shooting technology that every other show on the planet now has. So it looks antiquated, but there's still stories that are being told there that the fans want to hear, that generations of fans want to watch, and there's a comfort in watching the same people every day, year after year, generation after generation. So I love that about it.
I was a big Days of Our Lives fan when
I was too.
In college. Rush home to see it in the afternoon.
And I was one of those, I think I was an anomaly, a small anomaly, where I would switch channels because either you were an ABC person, a CBS person, or an NBC person for your soaps, right? So you were Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, whatever else was on CBS, or you were All My Children, One Life to Live, General Hospital, or you were Days of Our Lives, Another World, what was NBC?
Boy, you've got this down.
Yeah, there used to be 15 soaps. Now there's only 4. Isn't that heartbreaking? When I got in the business, there were 15 soaps on the air.
Plenty to choose from.
Yeah.
What do you consider your big break?
All My Children.
All My Children?
Yeah.
How come?
Because that gave me an opportunity to really gain this beautiful fan base that had existed long before I ever got there, and really welcomed me. And it was a wonderful, safe place to really learn my craft. And I met my daughter's father there, my ex-husband. I have phenomenal friends that are still kind of like, they're kind of my college friends because none of us went, so that was our college. And we're all still really great friends to this day. And also, I wouldn't have gotten CSI Miami if I hadn't been on All My Children. Yeah. Because when I left All My Children, our executive producer, Ann Donahue from CSI Miami, was an All My Children fan. And she loved my character. So out of like 300 people, I ended up getting the job at CSI Miami.
So that's how that came about?
That's how that came about, yeah.
Did you ever imagine the CSI universe would become such a global phenomenon?
No, who knew? I mean, the first one did incredibly well, but the CSI Miami surpassed it and ended up being like the #1 show in the world for a while there.
How many CSIs are there?
There were 3. There was CSI Vegas, CSI Miami, CSI New York. And then there are NCISs, I don't know how many. Oh, and then I think they ended up, after we were all, the first 3 were off the air, there was a CSI New Orleans?
I thought so. I thought I remembered a New Orleans.
Yeah.
And isn't there a Hawaii now?
There might be, I don't know.
Hard to keep track.
Yeah, I lost track.
Do fans approach you with CSI-style questions?
No, but a Canadian police officer told me the most phenomenal story. He came up to, I was in an airport, and he came up to me and he said, I just have to tell you, we used CSI as a way of catching a murderer. So we ended up, we'd been interrogating him for hours. He wouldn't break. He wouldn't come, and he said, we finally came in. He said, I came in and I sat down and I said, have you ever seen CSI Miami? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, well, so we have a technology that when we check the last thing that our victim saw, it will be emblazoned in his pupils. We will be able to see the last thing he saw. Are we going to see you? Because we're doing that right now. And he was like, well, yeah. She completely broke because you thought that somebody was going to actually be able to like clip the lens of the victim and see what. So they completely snowed this dude into a confession.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, I guess.
Nice work.
I don't know. Yeah.
How did the character Maria Santos affect your career so far?
Well, that was, like I said, Maria Santos got me CSI Miami, and a lot of other, and a ton of lovely Lifetime and Hallmark movies, and because it's that same demographic that, Lifetime and Hallmark, and oddly enough, true crime. It's that same 18 to 54-year-old woman who is a true crime fan. So,
which is who they're looking for, the sponsors, 18 to 54.
Yes, 18 to 54. We're the shoppers.
Back with more in a moment. If you'd like to be more involved with us at Still Here Hollywood, you definitely can. Just visit patreon.com/stillherehollywood. You can support us for as little as $3 a month. You can get our episodes a day before they post anywhere else. You can see what guests will be coming up and submit questions for them. You can even tell us what stars you want us to have on as guests. You'll see what goes on before and after the episode, plus exclusive behind-the-scenes info, pics, video, and more. Again, that's patreon.com/stillherehollywood. You and your daughter endured, 12 years of dealing with a relentless stalker?
We did, yes.
Tell me about that. How did that all happen?
So the second year, I was entering my second year of being on CSI Miami, and I got my first letter, and it initially came to my manager, and we didn't know we just thought it was maybe a one-off at first. The letters were from an anonymous person in Ohio, because that's where the letters were stamped from, and they just detailed in the most grotesque, sickening, disturbing way how he was going to kidnap me, hold me as a sex slave, and then dismember me. And then a couple of years later, the letters started coming to me and my daughter, it started when she was 6, and I think she was about 8 when the letters started coming, including her too. And then it escalated to the point where when I got married, the letters were coming to my ex-husband. And there were hundreds of letters over the course of 12 years. And the crazy thing was, I was playing a DNA expert on CSI Miami, and we were pretending to have all of this technology that we didn't really have in real life. So in real life, the FBI couldn't solve my case for 12 years, but on CSI Miami, we would have solved that case in 43 minutes, not including commercials. So.
Were they handwritten letters?
They were handwritten letters. Mm-hmm. And there was so much DNA all over them. There was fingerprints all over them because he was licking the letters and his fingers were on the fingerprints, on the stamps, back when you licked them and didn't have just the self-adhesive. But we cut to, there's all kinds of, in the docuseries, there's all kinds of things that happen in between. But cut to the 2 FBI agents who had helped solve the Golden State Killer case, which was a 43-year-old cold case with more than 5,000 suspects. And these two FBI agents, now I don't know if you know this because I didn't know this, FBI's jurisdiction is not murder. Murder doesn't fall under FBI jurisdiction. That's local law enforcement.
I didn't know that.
Isn't that interesting? Now, if murder happens to be part of a RICO case or some sort of tax evasion, or terrorism or something like that, then yes, but they don't go after murderers. But these two FBI agents were fascinated with why this case had never been solved. So they kind of, on a weekend, called up Paul Holes in San Francisco, who was the detective on Golden State Killer case for all these 43 years, and said, are there any resources that we can provide that would help you? How can we help you? Just because we're fascinated with the case, not because we're allowed to take it on being FBI. So they formed this ragtag sort of group of 6 people who ended up creating a brand new DNA technology that solved the Golden State Killer case, because at that point, 12 years after my stalker started, there was these new entities called 23andMe and Ancestry.com and GEDmatch. Up until that point, the only DNA database in the world was CODIS, which is the national database for all DNA, but it only included people, like you and I are not in that database. We've never been arrested and accused of a sexual crime or a murder or whatever. That would be the only reason that the government would have our DNA, right? So my guy was evading capture because he didn't have any prior reason to be DNA swabbed. But then all of a sudden with GEDmatch and 23andMe and all of this new technology, they were able to reverse engineer, use this by putting the DNA that they had from the Golden State Killer, upload it into these different entities, and then check the box that says, we want to be public, and then you're going to find a 5th cousin somewhere. And then you start working down the genealogy tree and getting rid of the branches until you find the family members that live in the area where you think these crimes happened. And that's how they ended up solving Golden State Killer. But the FBI said to them, this was a one-off. You did this on your weekends just because you were a fan of the case. This is not a replicable technology. And they said, well, give us another case that has a lot of DNA, and mine was the very next case. So my case ended up being a precedent-setting case for the FBI. It was the first time they ever prosecuted and got a conviction using the brand new forensics genealogy.
Did you all put your heads together? Did they give you an idea or a roadmap to follow, how to behave, or when to contact them, or what to save, or what to look for? No,
when it all first happened, it was such a free-for-all. There was no information. There was no, as a matter of fact, I was living in Glendale, and I went to the Glendale Police Department, and I said, this is what's happening. I'm getting these letters. And they said, oh, yeah, well, there's nothing we can do unless he's been on your property or has broken into your house or has actually laid hands on you. So there's nothing we could do. And plus, we didn't know what his name was. We had no idea who he was or what he looked like or where he was, if he was here. But all the letters kept saying, I'm around the corner. I can see you. I'm watching you. I'm seeing you drive your... Everything was, I'm outside the studio. I'm, waiting for you.
How creepy was that?
No, it's not just creepy. It's absolute psychological torture. It's torture. You can't imagine living in that kind of fear on a daily basis for years. And especially when your child comes into play, and that's, it's the one job you have is to protect your baby girl. So the Glendale Police Department, unfortunately, didn't even make me aware that there was a special crimes unit for stalking in Los Angeles. So what I've learned hence is that every first responder, even law enforcement, they're not all trained in the same awareness and help. So luckily, our technical advisor, who had been LA County Homicide Department chief for 25 years, and now he had been retired and was working as our technical advisor on CSI Miami, he put me in touch with FBI. Because it fell under FBI jurisdiction that I was being stalked and threatened with death by mail, and mail falls under FBI jurisdiction. So I just lucked out there.
It's I can't imagine.
But they would just come pick up the letters. There was nothing they could do either.
Nothing more than that.
I would just call every time the letters came in, and they'd say, pick them up with tweezers, put them in a plastic baggie, and they'd come and pick them up. I was like, hi, guys. You know, like literally.
Can I make you a cup of coffee?
Exactly. Yeah, we'd meet up for dinner or lunch or whatever a couple of times a year, and they'd update me on the case, which was, you know.
How long did this take?
12 years.
12 years.
12 years before they caught him. Then he only got 3.5 years. He's already out. And he has 3.5 years of probation and a restraining order. But, yeah.
And this inspired you to do a series of your own, correct?
Well,
a docuseries?
Yeah, it inspired me. I really wanted to do the scripted version of this. And then it ended up being better to do the docuseries, and Paramount Plus is I'm partnering with Paramount Plus, and they are releasing it on November 13th this year. So I'm really excited for it to come full circle and just really show stalking is kind of this silent crime. It's this crimeless crime because the crime hasn't happened yet. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So in the 12 years, you stop talking about it because you don't want to sound like the girl who cried wolf. And yet the statistic is 86% of female homicides, their killer stalked them first. 86% were stalked first before killed. So there has to be more recognition of stalking rather than, oh, but nothing's happened to you.
It'll go away.
It'll go away. It doesn't go away. Obsession and that kind of crazy, that kind of mental health debilitation is not going to go away or help itself. It's going to get worse. It escalates, and it escalates to murder in 86% of the cases. So that's a scary number. And let me give you this number.
Okay.
13.5 million people a year in the United States alone are stalked. Because there's myriad ways to be stalked now, right? Not just in person or by letter, but on social media. And they can get you in every social media. They can find your phone number. They can find your address. They can find all the things now. So, very dangerous.
Are you concerned at all that when this goes on to Paramount Plus, it might spur him or others?
Of course.
You know, because there's been all kinds of, there's been movies called Copycat.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We're very... the whole thing has been scary. I don't know if we could be more scared. So we decided to tell our story. We lived in 12 years of
fear,
absolute fear. It didn't make sense to not tell it now, but I see why people don't. I see why other celebrities don't come forward. I see why other people don't talk about it. Because you're really hoping that it's just a chapter that goes away, right? You just want it to stop. Because it's this drip, drip, drip of psychological destruction.
Have you had a conversation with your daughter about what to look for?
Oh, yeah. Those conversations happened at 6 without her ever knowing what was in the letters. She didn't know what was in the letters really until we went to federal court. And that's kind of when... And then... She never heard the messages he left on her high school attendance office pretending to be her dad, and then the subsequent 19 messages he left detailing all the absolutely sickening things from his letters. He left on her school answering machine. So when we were working on putting together the trailer and the sizzle reel first and then the trailer, those messages and his actual voice are part of those, and we had not really heard them before. Our team was cutting it all together, and they found that, and so when we watched the trailer for the first time, we actually had to stop it because we were so shocked by hearing the actual voice saying the actual things. And that was 14 years later.
Will that be part of the docuseries?
Of course.
His voice? We'll hear him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I'm really, really, really proud of the way the whole thing came together, and my friends and family and their story and their perspective and their fear around it. And my 2 FBI agents were just heroes, just absolute heroes. They literally came in the nick of time. You have to watch, but there is a point where literally in the nick of time.
And you said November 13th is the date this is
Yes,
going
sir.
on the air?
November 13th.
Okay.
My
Because
Nightmare
it sounds
Stalker, the
very
Evil LaRue
interesting.
story.
Is that what it's called, My Nightmare Stalker?
My Nightmare Stalker, the Evil LaRue story.
Any possibility that this will continue or spin off into I can't say fictional?
Yes, the scripted based on true stories. Yeah,
That's
true
going to happen?
events. It's looking like, yeah.
Oh, well. It's fascinating to me.
Are you a true crime guy or no?
Well, you know what? I had some experience. We'll be back in a moment.
You're not in the demographic. You're not in the 18 to 54-year-old women demographic.
Thanks.
But there are guys who like true crime too.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm interested because I mentioned the movie Copycat. And that was it with Sigourney Weaver. It was on television. I happened to watch it again. But originally I saw it in the theater, and I interviewed her as a result. And one of the people that they kind of stole ideas from for the script was John Wayne Gacy, the mass murderer in Chicago, who I knew.
Get out.
No. And I remember telling Sigourney about that when I was interviewing her, and she had a million questions for me. Well, this, that.
Did you know him well?
He was a contractor who did a lot of repairs, small repairs, things like that, worked in suburban Chicago. And he was hired to remodel the drugstore I worked at because I was a delivery boy before I got into television. And we would allow him in. We would unlock the door at night. He would come in with his young male staff, and they would take over the drugstore for the night. And we would let him out in the morning. Well, he asked me to have dinner with him several times, and he gave me the creeps, to tell you the truth.
Wow.
And well, this is about you, not about me, but nevertheless.
No, that's a good story.
Well, I was, at the time he was arrested, I was by this time in television in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and it was right around Christmas time that he was arrested, and I saw the video on television. I was watching our newscast, and he was brought in like this, so you couldn't see his face or anything, and we never called him John Wayne Gacy. We always just called him John.
Yeah.
Oh, that's John.
I'm like, I don't know that dude's middle name.
So when I went, I remember I watched it on the news, and I went into work the next day, and at the station I worked at in Green Bay, we got the Chicago Tribune. And there, on the front page of the Tribune, was his mugshot. And I was like, oh my God, it's him. And I called my old boss, who I hadn't worked for in 5 or 6 years. And I said, Bernie. And Bernie recognized my voice, and he said, it's him.
Oh my God.
Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, so it's just
that close.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. And one of his victims worked at a drugstore. And, the police work showed that he would offer these kids to get them to lure them into his car or whatever, pills, drugs. And I'm certain, it's my theory, that if you let him into a drugstore overnight and lock the doors,
yeah, hello?
he has access to everything. And it was not, at that particular point in time in the 70s,
people were very trusting.
and the drugs were not locked up like they are today.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to me, this kind of stuff,
Wow. That's a close brush.
It was. And he just gave me the creeps. Anyway, you've starred in so many shows over the years. Which set has had the most welcoming atmosphere for you?
Well, All My Children and CSI. CSI had already been going on for 2 years when I got there, and so I thought, oh, this could be, they may not be as welcoming because they already have their, little group pretty solidified. But I came in and they were so lovely and welcoming. And just even though you'd think, because it's got a dark bent to it, procedurals do, it was a very light, very fun, very funny cast. And so it was really a lovely, and we were like a family over there, but also all my children. I started there when I was 24, and we were all right around the same age, within about a 5-year range. And so I felt like we grew up in New York together there. You know what I mean? We had our 20s and it was just such a really formative time, I think, in all of our lives. And that's a really great family.
As a Latina actress, did you encounter any barriers that others in Hollywood might not have had to face?
Yeah. A lot. It wasn't in to be Latina in Hollywood until I think Eva Longoria got Desperate Housewives. And that was the first time that we really had a Latina woman get all kinds of attention and publicity. And all of a sudden it was, get yourself a Latina girl. And then we had Sofia Vergara was then suddenly cast on Modern Family. And then it became, but before that, all through, into my 30s, it was really tough. Thank God there was All My Children, because ours was the first Latina family on daytime TV, the Santos family, me and Mark Consuelos and Sydney Penny, and then at CSI Miami, when I was then in my 30s, then I got cast over there, which was awesome.
Mark Consuelos has done okay for himself.
He's doing okay.
We usually say, that sounds like the kind of a comment you'd make about a woman marrying well, but he married well. He did pretty well for himself.
He did, but he also made it, they met on All My Children, and, he's always been an actor and he's also an incredible architect. He's done a lot of their building and interiors and stuff for their homes, and now together on the show, they're fantastic. So.
When you look down the road of your career, what do you see?
I see the scripted version of this series. I'm an executive producer on the documentary, and I'm really loving that foray into producing. And so right now I'm writing and creating the scripted version of it, and so that's where I'd like to see this story go.
What's the best career advice you've ever been given?
It wasn't have a backup plan, that's for sure. I think it would have to be from my ex-husband, who's now passed, who is still my great friend, and my daughter Kaya's dad, John Callahan. And it was mostly about lighting. He would always say, "Get out of my light, LaRue." And so I've become very aware of other people's light, and you don't want to, and I think this works across the board in life. Don't diminish other people's light. Don't come onto a set with all of your negative, bad temper and whatever and ruin other people's days. We're all there to work and do a good job and do the best. And there's so much insecurity in this business. I feel that people will take it out on everybody around them. So don't stand in other people's light.
Good advice. Can I ask you, what was the toughest no you ever got?
Oh, the toughest no.
Maybe there haven't been any.
There have been a lot of no's, but because that's how the industry rolls. I think the biggest no that's been the hardest to take is when CSI ended, and there was like a long bunch of years where I just was not working. And so I think when you're on a successful show for a long period of time, there's always this no that happens directly after, maybe because people are just sick of seeing you, and and now they're interested in new blood and new stardom. And so when you think of all the big TV shows that have ever come and gone, a lot of those actors don't show up again for a bunch of years, if at all, And so I think that was the hardest no, was from the whole industry. I felt like there was a no period.
Was there a period when you thought that might not end?
Yeah, there was a period when I thought maybe I didn't need to have a fallback plan.
It's not too late to write things down.
I think it's just being tenacious, though. It's just about being tenacious, and it was actually beautiful because it gave me all that time to be with my daughter while she was going through junior high and high school. And you cannot get that time back. And I would not give up. I wouldn't go back to work during that time for anything now.
You have experience from which to speak. Do any young people ever come up to you, or do you ever speak to classes or anything where they ask you what to do or what advice you have?
Every once in a while, but people used to ask more about 10, 15 years ago. Now, I don't think anybody asks because I think that there's so many venues in which to be a celebrity. There's TikTok and there's YouTube and there's Instagram and there's this whole other celebrity. There's OnlyFans. You know what I mean? There's this whole other celebrity going on that I don't think people ask anymore because they are finding their own way to it. And there's just no one way anyway. So even when people would ask me, there's just no one way. So, you can do you can start at the basics, which is, call Screen Actors Guild and have them send you the little booklet that they have of all of the agents that are franchised by the Guild, all of the legit agencies, and then you can start blanketing them with headshots and resumes and a follow-up call and see if anybody's, interested. And other than that, you want to do as many, plays and get as much stage experience as you possibly can. And
trial and error.
It's all trial and error, and you just never know where it's going to happen. I did a lot of extra work in high school during the summer. That was, my summer job, and just being on set, seeing how it all runs. That's really important. Then maybe you end up getting to be a stand-in for somebody. Maybe you end up getting our big thing was we couldn't wait to get our little under 5. If we could have like 2 or 3 sentences, then maybe we'd get our SAG card. But I got lucky and got an agent pretty young, and because I had done commercials when I was a kid, so I already had my SAG card. I lucked into that early. So it happens for everybody in a different way. But
we'll be back for more in a moment. What about AI? Are you concerned at all about AI?
I think everybody should be concerned with AI. I'm not concerned with AI taking over actors' places, because
what frightens me or alerts me sometimes is when I'm playing on the internet, which I spend too much time doing.
What? I don't know what you mean.
And I see these things come up.
Not me.
They had today. I came across one where Queen Elizabeth was checking out people at a grocery store.
Oh, they've got this whole new...
And it looks so real.
Yeah, Queen Elizabeth thing. I just saw one, too, where she was wearing Nikes or something. Yeah, they're like... that's all a little bit scary. And I don't know if there's any rules or laws in play. There are some, right?
Well, I know SAG and AFTRA were trying to alert people as to safeguards, things that they can watch for or not accept, or companies not to work for. I don't know. It's just I find it pretty scary.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever. I hope I don't think that an audience is ever going to watch a go and pay however much it is now. God, what was it? Like last night we went to the movies, and I think it was it like $18 a ticket or something ridiculous. Yeah, nobody's going to pay to go watch fake people be in a movie. Like, I still love my actors, my specific actors. I go because I want to see what phenomenal thing they're doing. I don't want to go watch an AI human I'm not going to pay money to go watch it. I can watch AI on,
Whatever.
on my computer. They've got them all over. Now they've got some models and stuff that are actually making millions of dollars for their creators
Right.
on Instagram and TikTok. Ridiculous. I don't know. Seems silly.
Learn how to be a computer programmer.
Yeah.
What did you go see? Do you remember?
Yeah, we just saw One Battle After Another.
Oh.
Did you see it yet?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's the Leo DiCaprio movie. And
The movie I want to see
it's
right now
great.
is
Sean Penn. Oh my God, he's phenomenal.
Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Oh,
I want to see that.
And I want to see Beautiful Journey, the one with Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
right.
because that looks really sweet.
It does. It's hard to keep up with everything.
Yeah,
And
One
if you do
Battle
watch
After
it at
Another is
home,
long.
yeah.
It's long, but it's great. It's great.
Did you have any pressure? Did you feel early in your career to fit a certain mold?
No, because there was no mold for me. There wasn't a lot of Latina girls in the business.
Didn't you feel a need to fit in some way?
No, because I was also one of the only brown kids at my high school, so I didn't. I fit in where I fit in, in a lot of different groups. I luckily had great friends. We're all still really great friends. I've got a group of about 15, 20 people from high school that are literally going to a barbecue next weekend, and we'll all be there. So I love that I've got home,
I was one of the only gay kids in my school.
Were you?
Yes.
Were you out in high school?
No. No. But that didn't keep people from calling me names.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They recognize a lisp when they hear one. So it's interesting. What personal challenges have made you stronger in Hollywood?
I think growing up, being different, and in the area that I grew up in, which is a cowboy town, and growing up really broke and poor, and having a car that literally would stall out every time I was making a left-hand turn and stuck in the middle of
It always happens
it's character building, my friend.
you're
It's character building.
In an intersection. It always happens then.
Always the intersection, yeah.
Has there ever been a role that you've turned down that later you wish you hadn't?
Yes. Well, it wasn't. I didn't turn it down. I don't know why, but I read the script for Mystic Pizza, and the audition. I don't know if they were just in town and renting some little place to do their casting or what it was, but it seemed janky. Because it was a little low budget movie.
Translate, janky?
Janky, yeah. Sus.
Okay.
Suspect.
That I heard just today on the radio, sus. I learned what sus is.
Suspect. Because it was a little low budget movie. And the only low budget movies being done really at that time, I don't know, was 30 years ago now, were like those like C movie where somebody was going to end up topless, somebody was going to end up running topless. I don't know. So I didn't end up going on the audition.
Well,
but you know what? It was meant to launch Julia Roberts. That was
it sure
that was
did.
her. That
like
was
out of a cannon.
out of a cannon. Yeah.
Of course, I think it would have happened anyway.
Yeah, it would happen.
Balancing a public career with a private life isn't easy. How have you juggled that?
The public career and private life. Luckily, I've only had like a modicum of fame, so I can't imagine being one of the top 1% and not being able to go to the grocery store yourself, or, not being able to go out without security or something like that. People will come up every once in a while and say, "Oh my God, loved you on All My Children" or CSI or whatever. But it's always in a lovely way. It's always really positive. It's always been a super positive experience until the stalker.
Was there a time when you had to go out with security because of the stalker?
Yeah. I always had security on set, and when we were out on location, I had security at my house. We had a lot of.
When I assume you were in court when this
Monster,
there you go, thanks, was there as well.
No, thank God. He was in Ohio. He was apprehended in Ohio, and they had him be in court via big Zoom, monitor. We had specified to the court beforehand that we did not want to be present if they were going to be flying him out, which never made sense to me. Why would they use taxpayer dollars to fly this dude to California? He'd never been to California. We didn't know he'd never been to California because he was always saying he was around the corner and he was standing out. But they were going to fly him there to be in court, and then what? And was somebody they couldn't give us any answers about, was somebody watching him? Was he being held what was happening? So we just said, we're not going to be in court if he's going to be in court. And then, so thankfully they decided to just put him up on a big TV screen.
I can't imagine what that would have been like.
Yeah, it was, I think maybe the worst part was him giving his statement and saying that he wished he'd been caught earlier. And we're like, us too.
Did he say why he wished he'd been caught earlier?
He said, that he'd had he didn't realize.
Sleepless nights?
Yeah, he was bored. I don't know. He said that he didn't realize how great his mental health issues were, and now that he's on medication and he's got a therapist and all these things, he realizes how bad it was, and some excuse about how, because his dad was an alcoholic and beat up his mom, I'm like, get in line, guy. Our family's not killing anybody.
And we'll be right back. What's the biggest lesson you learned from all that?
I think the lesson is ongoing. We're still learning stuff about ourselves and about how to manage fear, how to manage the frustration around the justice part of it, because there's such a long way to go in terms of legislation and awareness. So it's really an ongoing education. And
the thing is, you have to be able to live your life.
You have to be able to live your life. So you really have to compartmentalize all of that. And when we started to do the interviews for the documentary, we really realized, we had our therapist on speed dial because all these feelings came that we had really had shoved away in some little cabinet drawer under the heading stalker. Was a lot of things that we hadn't even talked about together. A lot of things that you don't, the depth of the fear and the depth of the destruction, is not something you talk about with all the time or with a lot of people. So doing those interviews for a couple of weeks was really quite hard.
Tell me about working with David Caruso. He had a reputation for being rather intense.
He was intense, but he was really good at what he did, and he, honestly, he was always really great to me. So he was lovely to me, and he was, what he was really great at? He was really great at giving acting advice. So he could really see as the scene from the outside, and I think a lot of times if he was perceived as difficult, it was because he would, when you're in a series for a long time, the writing will have holes in it, and you're the actor, so you know where the holes are, but nobody's really listening, and then the scene's written kind of wonky, and maybe it doesn't make great sense, and so he'd be rewriting stuff and redoing stuff, and then he was also really good at just being like, hey, can you give me more of this? I think if you do it more like this, I found it helpful. But
you don't mind that?
No, I don't. Also, if I don't, in my head, think it works, I just won't. But I always find it helpful. I find other people's perspective helpful no matter what I'm doing, because I don't have to completely buy their perspective, but there might be some piece of truth in it, or something I can riff off of. That's why I always think there's no bad ideas, because even at the worst idea, you can riff off that and you might find something fantastic in that dirt. You know what I mean? You might find a little nugget of gold in the dirt. So never a bad idea.
Even if you think it's sus.
even if you think it's sus.
I'm learning all these new
Or
words.
janky.
How did becoming a mother shape your career?
Oh, it's everything.
How old is your daughter now?
She's 23 now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, going to be 24 in about 2 months.
You look like you could be that age.
Oh, thank you. You need new glasses.
Or clean ones. What has been the greatest challenge?
I don't feel like there's been a challenge. Like I said, I had that really great period, torn as a professional, torn as an actress, that I wasn't working. You're always panicked that you're not working and waiting for the next job. But at the same time, I loved having those years of just us. We traveled everywhere. I suddenly had, coming up through the industry, I either didn't have the money and had plenty of time, or didn't have the time and had a job and had money. But for the first time, I had the money from leaving CSI Miami and all this time. So I dragged that kid all over the world with me, and it was the best thing I think we ever did. As an education for her, as an education for me, just in terms of being a global human being. You know what I mean? It's really important, I think, to have a global perspective, or else we get really waylaid into the weeds with these small groups of people.
And if she wanted to pursue a career in acting, what would you say?
Oh, I'd be totally for it. She's a really great actress, but she hates the audition process.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Yeah. But she really, really rattles her. So, but she's a really great little on-air personality. She's, maybe she's better as a host. She's super funny.
There's so many places where you can find work now.
Yeah. You can make your own,
Yeah.
really.
Speak from experience. Who was your biggest on-set prankster at CSI?
We didn't really have one, thankfully. I think that would have been so annoying. I don't, they always talk about, George, is it George and Brad Pitt? Like they have like this ongoing.
Oh, George Clooney.
Yeah, George Clooney and Brad Pitt have this ongoing major pranking. Like really high level pranking. I think the last story that George Clooney told was how he wrote a letter from Meryl Streep to Brad Pitt, and that nobody knew about it until Brad ran into Meryl and was like, "Oh, your letter, blah, blah, blah." And she's like, "What?" I don't know I don't remember all the whole story or what it entailed, but it was something crazy. And then Brad got, so luckily, no. It was a very funny set. Everybody had the best sense of humor, but there was no pranking.
Do you have a favorite funny or unexpected moment from CSI?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. It was always funny. I mean, I think the funniest thing about CSI was not so much what was happening on set, even though everybody was always laughing and joking, but my sister, who was like, I find it very interesting that you guys go into these darkened buildings and houses and apartments looking for
trouble.
No, well, looking for clues. Like, right, we're going in there looking for evidence. We need the tiniest hair. We need a little tiny blood spatter that's like that big. But we go in complete darkness with our guns drawn and our lights over our gun. And she's like, nobody thought to like switch on a light? Nobody wants to turn the lights on in that? You're going to try to find a tiny little hair with a tiny little flashlight? And I'm like, it's for dramatic effects. It's. I always wish, though, that we had done the send-up version of CSI Miami. It would have been pretty
Maybe
funny.
that's something you can consider for the future.
Right.
Thank you, Eva. This has been a lot of fun for me.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
It's been a lot of fun for me.
I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Still Here Hollywood is a production of the Still Here Network. All things technical run by Justin Zangerle. Theme music by Brian Sanishin. And executive producer is Jim Lichtenstein.